Hello, good morning, good evening, and welcome to everybody who have joined us here live and to those of you that are coming back for the replay. My name is Chantelle Here, and on this channel, I love to talk about live streaming and how it can help you to communicate better with your community. Today, we have Jeff Bartsch, the founder and creator of Story Greenlight. He is here to chat about all the amazing things, including his fantastic journey on becoming the storytelling guru. Jeff, how are you going?
I'm doing fantastic. It is the end of the day for me. So I've popped in some coffee and got a little snack. So we're good to go.
We're good to go. We're good to go. I have my coffee, although it is like my second of the day. So it still hasn't kicked the system yet. I'm still going.
Fair enough.
Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey as a storyteller, and also helping others to crack the code of becoming good storytellers themselves?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Jeff Bartsch, and I have a brand called Story Greenlight, and it's all about helping people tell stories with video. And the way I got here, it took all kinds of twists and turns, as these things tend to do. I actually started out as a kid more involved in music. I've played piano ever since I was 5 years old, and both by ear and by class, and classically trained. And then I got into high school and I did a bunch of video production stuff because I was in a tiny high school and I was the only one who cared about that stuff. So I was the one-man band, and got into college and I started doing some radio stuff because they didn't have anything with video at the school there. Then I transferred out to Los Angeles to go to film school, and I was a full-time production major working 3 part-time jobs and a full load of classes. And I ran out of money. I had to drop out of college, and I ended up getting a phone number from the head of the film department. And that phone number turned into my first internship, where I showed up in the middle of the night for 5 months, for Friday and Sunday nights for 5 months at this TV show in Hollywood. That internship turned into my first job editing television. Well, as an assistant editor. That was my first job in TV in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so moved on from there. And eventually I decided, you know what? I've learned lots of stuff about creating content here in Hollywood. I would love to help people do the same thing. And so that started me on yet another twisting and turning thing about, okay, it's not enough to just know how to do something, but in terms of having, creating a business or creating a coaching thing or anything like that online.
So different, isn't it?
It is a completely different animal. And I had no idea. And it's just, no one ever told me this. So it's just one of those things where you just start banging your head against the wall. And so after 20 years in LA, I actually ended up, failing and quitting, failing with online business and quitting, and then starting back up and then trying something different. And it's ended up what we have today with Story Greenlight, which is literally, we were talking before we went live, it is literally still transitioning and evolving as we go. But the core of it has always been the same. When we're talking with people, we want to be able to connect with people. When we have an audience, we want to gain influence with our audience, and we want them to care about us. We want them to care about what we're saying. If we have a product or a brand that we represent or that we're promoting, we want them to care about that product or brand. And storytelling is an incredibly powerful way to connect with our audience and make them care and make them take action on what we ask them to do.
It is one of the most, it sounds like it's the simple thing, right? It sounds like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's deceptively simple.
Tell a story. But telling a story that is meaningful and impactful is so different than just like dropping some paragraphs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's and how, like I've been stalking you. Let's just face it. If we call it research, no, stalking, and going through like a lot of your content and a lot of the interviews you've done with other people. And one of the things that I really love to watch specifically are your videos not so much like where it's just you to camera like this, but where you're out and about and you are telling a story and you're taking us on a journey, and it feels like we're going somewhere. Like it feels like this story's going somewhere, but it also visually feels like we're going somewhere. And I sort of look at what you do and I'm like, oh man, I really need to up this editing game, which is probably one of the reasons why I gravitate towards live video, because no editing involved. How did you end up using live video in your business? Because you are the editing guy, like,
right,
and the voiceover guy. I learned something about you, just to sidetrack you entirely on your question.
Sure.
One of my guilty pleasures many years ago was Super Nanny.
Oh, you watched Super Nanny. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Love Super Nanny so much. And then when I was like, oh my God, Jeff was the voiceover guy for Super Nanny.
It's true. It's true.
So then all of a sudden my calm demeanor just went, it's gone.
Nice.
So I just had to get that out early. Couldn't have that bottled in for the entire video.
That show was so fun. It was such a cool show to work on, except for the time. Oh man, there was one episode. I was no longer editing the show. For people not familiar with the show, it was a show it aired in the U.S. on the ABC network.
In Australia, yeah.
And okay. And actually, I know it aired all around the world. I actually got an email. I got a message from my brother one day. He lives in the Middle East. And he says, dude, I just heard your voice on the TV with Arabic subtitles. It was kind of crazy. But
wow.
It was kind of crazy. And this one episode, though, I was no longer editing the show. And it was a story about how the crew had gone, the crew had shot this episode halfway, and the father of this family was sick. But after they shot the bulk of the episode, the father died from cancer. And so when Joe, the nanny, went back to follow up with the family, they basically ended up reshooting the episode, and it became about how do you deal with a family who's just lost their father. And so I was going into the recording studio to do the voiceover tracks for the show open.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, are you ready for this? Because this one's a heavy one. And they played down the open. And it was things like this little girl saying, why did daddy have to go? And I'm going into, it was the most gut-wrenching thing. When it was done, I could barely talk. And so they said, okay, are you ready to track this? I said, I don't know. No. And it was hard, because that was one of the only things. My voice was all raspy and husky. I could barely talk. I was so wrecked by this story. But other than that one episode, it was a lot of fun.
Other than this devastating, earth-shattering episode, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that just sounds. I mean, one of the guests that we had previously was talking about how professionals just don't need motivation because they just keep going because it's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like what you just had to do. You just had to sort of knuckle down and big breath and.
And I'll admit that episode, my performance did not sound amazing. I think they just kind of gritted their teeth and they said, "What, dude? Come on, work with us here. Come on." Yeah. But yeah, it was powerful storytelling. What can I say?
Well, I mean, the reality is, it affected you emotionally because of the content. Would it not also affect the viewers emotionally, and your voice would match that?
I think there would probably be some leeway.
Yeah.
I think there would be some leeway on a story like that's so heavy.
Yeah.
I think there would be some leeway for the voiceover to match.
I think so. Otherwise the tones are off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly you're never going to go into a really serious voiceover thing, and you're gonna come into it talking like this with great big energy, blah 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 blah. You know, it's gonna be more like on a very special episode kind of a thing. That you know, but it's a really sad story, guys.
Get your tissues.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't think I've ever told anyone that story before.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Yay for us.
There you go.
Because I'm a super nanny, tragic. So it's so hard to bring it back now.
Okay. Well, so you mentioned that you're doing some stalking and you found
that's
some.
Right.
You spent some time watching
so much
Super
stuff.
Nanny. Okay.
But how is it that you use live video in your business? Because you are the editing guy, you're the storytelling guy. And on this channel, we like to talk about live video and how to use that. And there's so many different ways that it can be used that isn't a live stream like this.
Yes.
So how do you use live video in your businesses?
Sure. Well, most of the people in the general public don't know that I do live stuff. And part of that is, frankly, for anyone who's kind of worried about what's it going to be like if I go live? Are there going to be people showing up and putting nasty comments and making fun of me? And what if I forget what I'm going to say? And blah, 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 I can't do it. No, just so if there's any part of that that's in your head, maybe something that I'm doing could be of some help to start getting you into the shallow end of the pool before you jump off the deep end, as it were. The way I actually use streaming in my business is I actually just go live in my Facebook group for my paid community. So Story Greenlight is the name of the brand. And I have a membership called the Green Room that's all about helping creators take their content up to the next level and, working with them and brainstorming and doing all the things there in that private community. And so we have a Facebook group, and I use StreamYard, just like we're using right now. And I use StreamYard to go live for mini streams once a week inside the Facebook group. And I specifically say, I'm going to take one main idea and I'm going to talk about this one idea. I shoot to have the stream be 5 minutes long. It usually ends up between 5 and 10 minutes. Yeah. Sometimes we have some interaction with folks in the group, real time. And other times people leave comments after the fact. And that's the main gist of it. And well, and that's the main way that I use it right now.
Yeah. So what made you decide that this was an important thing to do? So you've obviously have to make an effort to do it. It's different than what you usually do. What made you realize, okay, this is worth the effort of going live, doing this different thing within this particular group?
Sure. Well, it's kind of a two-pronged thing. Number one, I was nervous to go live because I am the editing guy. I've spent the last 2 decades sitting in sometimes literally renovated closets with stacks of computers. And I'm playing Legos. I'm playing Legos with picture and sound and music. So I get to sit there and I think about every little detail and I fit all the pieces together. So the thought of me having to be talking live and thinking on my feet and just doing all that freaked me out. And I knew that I needed to get better at that because ever since the pandemic, I mean, that's just pushed things way farther along than they would have been otherwise. Everyone has the opportunity to go live. Everyone is living and operating at least partially in a virtual way. And it's only going to become more so. So I knew that I needed to practice that. So this was part of me saying, I want to do this, get some practice in a low pressure environment where people already know me, and I'm not going to have any weirdos showing up and catcalling or whatever.
Trolling.
So that was
so many people are worried about trolls, honestly.
They've never happened. They've never happened. And I will say, I mean, maybe we can talk about that at some a little bit later. But in answer to your question, so the reason that I wanted to do this, number one, was so I could get practice and get better at it in a low pressure environment. And then number two, the reason I wanted to do it was I wanted to show up regularly for my people. I wanted to build community. I wanted to not just be the guy with pre-recorded content that they consume and there's no interaction. So that was the thing that I wanted to do, and it's worked out really well on both those points. And I noticed that Crochet with Claire just popped in saying, yeah, that one right there, we put pressure on ourselves when we go live, and most people just want to see and chat. So yeah, that's what happens. I mean, I always want to show up prepared.
Yeah.
Because I think that's worth feeling that pit in the stomach. If you ever are thinking about hitting the go live button and you haven't done your homework, you deserve to feel all the feelings, in my opinion.
Wow.
Do the homework, people.
With Jeff, everybody. Because it sounds like, oh, you've got to do all this preparation, but you actually you don't have to do a lot. It depends on what you're going live with, obviously.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do a lot, but you do have to do something, because otherwise you will sit there and you will be like, there's nobody here. Oh my gosh, how do I actually hold this conversation? Because I didn't think of anything. I just expected everybody to come in and ask me questions.
Right.
You got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. Jeff, just before you said that, you're the guy who sits in the cupboard with the Lego blocks. I watched that video last night that you were talking about. It was the Jeff's backstory. Okay. And there was something that you said in there. I'm going to read it just so you know what I'm doing here. Sure. And you were talking about, and because it smashed me right in the chest. Right. I was just like, okay. So I was
hopefully not painfully.
A little. And I had to pause the video because I really had to just sort of stop and think about it. Okay. And I thought, well, that was excellent storytelling. I'll just say that. But you shared about a coaching session that you'd had and they said to you that you had to write out like the list of your like the bullet point list of a career. But they were saying that and you said our childhood gives us clues to direct our adult life. The things we gravitate towards as children almost always provide clues for the things that give us the most fulfillment as adults. And I just sort of sat there thinking, like, and then you gave the example of you with the piano by yourself and you playing Lego by yourself and building blocks of things to create, your Lego constructions, but then taking that into your now life of using little building blocks to build videos and tell stories. And I was sort of sitting there just thinking, wow, like I had never considered that. And it sort of made me sit back and think about, what did I do as a kid? Like I really had to think, because I'm old, I really had to think back quite a way and think about what kind of things did I actually enjoy and direct myself to do rather than somebody else directing me to do. And it was so profound. Sorry, Jeff, total sidetrack. And just as an aside, my dog is going insane. There's construction going on and the dog is just angry at trucks driving past our house.
How dare they drive by your house?
I know.
Well, okay, you know what? If I may be so bold, does anything come up with that thought process about what you loved as a child, and does that maybe connect with what you're doing here right now?
I don't know. So the things that I realized that I did a lot that weren't like mum saying, go and sit in your, like those sorts of things, was I always was playing either the ukulele or strumming on my dad's guitar and singing and just running around. Like I ended up in the ER a couple of times because my stage was the back of the couch and I would be so in the jam, I would fall off. So there was always music but also a lot of reading. Like I would devour books, just just read just so much. I remember getting in trouble at school because the teachers thought I was lying on my reading list. And my mum had to come in and go, yeah, no, look
She's
here.
not
I
kidding.
brought all the books. She likes to read. She eats them.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But that was sort of like, that were the things, that and just sitting on the beach and looking at the water. I used to just love just going down to the beach and just breathing the air.
Which is a pity with my background. Most people don't know I was actually born in Australia. I was born in Adelaide. And
does that make you a dual citizen? I was wondering about that.
You know, I think so, maybe. I mean, I've lived. I was born to parents from the U.S. and I was born in Adelaide and then came back to the States, and I've been here ever since. So I think I could probably get an Aussie passport if I tried to. But the thing is, when we were there, we were really close to the beach in Adelaide, and I was freaked out by the water, which, what a pity, because those beaches are amazing.
They really are. They really are. I used to live on the Sunshine Coast, so I had beautiful white sand beaches, and it was just, it was amazing. It was always just amazing. My dad was a fisherman, so we always lived near the water, no matter where we lived. So it was one of those things. But yeah, so I used to just, that's where I went, was just, I sort of realized that all the paths that I took as a teenager for job prospects and doing this, and they're totally the opposite. Like I did all the things I thought I was expected to do. So yeah. And now it's sort of coming around. I did theater lighting, which is my background of like theater sound and lighting.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I did that for years, even after I finished high school. But it was, and then, you know, now I'm here doing not theater, but it's still live, I suppose.
Yeah. And you got some
but it's me.
You definitely got some cool lighting in your background right now. So it all fits together.
I do like a bit of occasional lighting.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. We do have a question. Timeless jump from RB Russie. She's jumped in. What's one of your favorite projects for filming?
You know what? Could I get a little clarification on that? One of my favorite projects in terms of me actually doing shooting or projects that I've been part of.
Oh, that's a very good distinction. Russie, because throw in your distinction. That would be awesome.
Because I will say, I haven't done a whole lot of shooting myself, other than what I've done with YouTube. But I will say, she says yes, me shooting. You know, I'll go both directions on this one. Okay. So the first direction in terms of projects that I've been a part of, I would say one of the coolest projects that I'm a part of is a show called American Ninja Warrior, and it airs in the US on NBC, and I get to tell. And if you're not familiar with the stories, basically it's a competition show where athletes try to get through this crazy obstacle course. And so one of the primary elements of that competition, it's that course is no joke. One of the main parts of it is the story pieces that happen before the athletes start their run. And so that's the stuff that I get to work on. So I've been with the show ever since episode from season 6, and we're currently right in the middle of season 14. And I did the numbers. I think I've done about 300, right around 300 athlete profile pieces over my time with the show. Just putting in the reps over and over and over and over and over and over, telling story after story after story after story, usually about a minute and a half. Sometimes they're up to 2 minutes. But man, you get to see so many cool people and hear so many stories and spread those messages of encouragement and empowerment and overcoming obstacles out to millions of people. It is such a cool thing. It is such an honor to be part of that. So that's one of that's right up there at the top with my favorite gigs professionally. Now, in terms of YouTube, I would say one of the coolest things I've shot for YouTube is a sequence in our kitchen playing cards with my little son. And he had these two little, and this was maybe three years ago or something like that. So he's starting to talk. He wasn't talking very clearly yet. And and we were doing we had these two cars, and you pull them back, and we were racing them. So I pulled out my lens collection, and I put the camera on a towel or something like that, a makeshift slider. And I was going, doing the sliding shots and everything. Yeah. And I pulled out. I went full out for this scene. I had my camera phone on a little mini gimbal, so I was having going up, just doing the half circles, all the things that you do with the crazy cinematic drone shots and stuff. And then I put that together with a piece of action trailer music, and it just ended up being it just rocks.
Epic. It epic.
Absolutely rocks. I spent a ridiculous amount of time planning and shooting and editing that scene, but it is one of the coolest things to this day that I've shot and edited on YouTube.
Wow.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable at all.
So you can't knock one of those out every day?
Oh no. No, that's why streaming is so attractive for so many people.
It is. We do have a question here from Leanne. She says, I hear many smaller and larger YouTube channel hosts mention that they do not enjoy the editing process for their videos. Could you share your top 3 editing tips?
Yes. Shoot less.
Okay.
Number 1.
Oh, I'll put that back up. Sorry.
Shoot less, which means you have fewer decisions to make in the edit. Yeah. Now there's a balance to be struck there, because if you don't shoot enough, then you just kind of, you have what you have, and you kind of slap it together, and it just goes up there, and it is what it is. But people can often go the other end of things and just say, oh, I'm going to get this shot and then this shot and this shot, and I'm going to do 8 takes of all these things. And then you sit down to edit and you're going, where do I start?
Why is there so much?
Well, and the thing that I always talk about is you're going into a gift card store, and you're saying, I need to pick out the perfect greeting card, but there are 30,000 greeting cards inside the store. How on earth are you going to walk into a store like that and say, I need to find the perfect one? And choose in 10 minutes. Oh, without going nuts. So the thing is, narrowing down your options, creating specificity, being specific, and saying, okay, I need the perfect greeting card for my uncle who's about to turn 40. And he doesn't like funny videos. He doesn't like funny cards, and his cat just died. Yeah. Okay, now we have a place to go, because we've pretty much ruled out everything else.
Yeah, just about everything out of the store. So no cats, nothing funny.
And definitely
what's left.
And definitely no dog cards. So there's that. Gosh. So that's the number one thing, is to shoot less, narrow your options within reason, on purpose, so you don't have to spend so much time editing. Yeah. And that's really the biggest thing in terms of editing, is going to be so much easier to do when you've done all the work beforehand, when you've really thought about, okay, who am I talking to? Let's
not fix it in post.
Yeah, exactly. That, in case people are not familiar with that phrase, that is a time-honored phrase that we use in the entertainment industry. Oh, just fix it in post, because post-production is the editing part. It's after production. So
Yeah.
the people editing, we're magicians. That's why we get paid to do what we do. And it's true. But it's far better to get it right the first time.
Yeah. Less work to make it look good if you made it look good to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have a third tip? You don't have to. You don't need a third one. But
there are so many different. There are so many rabbit holes we could go down. But I will. I think I'll just stop right there. I think if I could only give one tip for editing, it would be plan ahead, minimize your choices, so you know how to put things together on purpose quickly in the end.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thanks, Leanne. That was a great question. So the title of our video is talking about building confidence and building community.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask, I wanted to clarify something. So when we were talking building confidence with live video, are we talking about building the confidence of our brand, our persona, of what we're selling or what we're doing? Or are we building our own personal confidences as creators to communicate better?
I think it could go either way. And I do think that, especially when you're starting out, it's important to know that you're not going to be amazing. Nobody is amazing starting out. And you just have to know that. And you just have to suck it up and do it anyway.
Like, I screw things up all the time, and I've been going live. I've made hundreds of live videos. Hundreds of 2-hour-long live videos, and I destroy it every time.
Well, and I will say, I was talking with my producer. I have a producer editor who who helps me with my content creation. She was working on one of the episodes of my podcast, and she was saying, "Dude, I love how your energy is showing up at this point." And it's and it's cool. I mean, and when she pointed it out, I could see it. She was right. And when you compare that, we're as of this recording right here, as of this moment, we're at around 30 episodes on the podcast. And when you compare my energy, my delivery to the first episodes, there's a significant difference. I've been doing these mini live streams inside the Facebook group. I've not been doing it for years and years. I've been doing it just since this past fall. But by my records, I've done 25 mini live streams inside the Facebook group. And at this point, when I go live, I'm going, let's do this.
Seat of the pants. Let's go.
Well, not necessarily seat of the pants, because I always do my homework.
Prepare.
But it's always, I always have something anchoring me that I know that I know that I'm going to talk about. And I know that I can go off the track. I can go off the rails a little bit, and I can just have fun. So in terms of building confidence, when that happens for yourself, after you start putting in those reps, that is when you really start feeling good about yourself, and it shows in your brand, and your brand expands and grows and becomes more refined and more polished because of that. So it happens together.
And then that in turn, especially for you doing these minis in your Facebook group, that in turn builds the community nearly automatically or by itself, because they're watching you progress and grow, and they're coming on that journey with you as well. So they feel like they're part of it. And that's how you build a community, is to make people feel, full stop, but also to make them feel part of it, make them feel part of whatever it is that your group or your Facebook or YouTube story is about. You need to bring them along with you. It's not just you by yourself. And I think that's a fantastic way to think about like your confidence
Mhm.
in your storytelling or in your abilities, and your willingness to learn and be my brain won't give me the word. There's a word. But basically, like, you're being raw and you're honest about the fact that, okay, this is like, live number 3.
Authenticity.
And
Yeah.
authenticity, thank you. It does get
I
bandied
guessed
around a
it.
lot.
Yes.
You got it. It does get bandied around a lot, and people are like, oh, you have to be your authentic self, blah, 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 blah.
Well, yeah.
I don't like it in that term, but in this instance where you're truly being authentic, where you're being just, it's an honesty thing, and the honesty draws the community, I think. What do you think about that?
I would say the authenticity. I'm going to push back on that just a little bit, because
Go hard.
I don't know that authenticity by itself will build community. I believe it's going to be more something along the lines of, why are we all here? Why are we all here? What are our shared beliefs, or what are our shared interests? And then our interaction, and the fact that we show up in an authentic way. I think that's providing an environment.
That's the trick. That's the trick. It's not just being authentic.
Yeah.
It's doing it, being authentic in that space.
Yes. Yeah. And I would agree, because I would agree in terms of, a lot of people say, oh, well, you just got to be authentic. You just got to be real and got to be raw. Well, I've seen people be real and raw and overshare, and it's really kind of cringy, and it's not.
It is, seriously. I'm so glad you said that. I watch some videos sometimes and I just think, nope.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Little much. Yeah. Well, because here's the thing. When you think about building relationships with any people in real life, you have levels of progressive intimacy. Mm-hmm. Starting from starting from something just as simple as eye contact, looking at someone else and they look back at you, and then it goes, then you go towards talking to each other, and then depending on what context you're talking about relationship, then you just go on from all the levels from there. But the point of this is, if you skip those levels, we feel shortchanged. We feel you're trying to go from first, for people who for people who know what a manual transmission is and how it works and how it doesn't work. It's like you're going from a dead stop and you're trying to start out in third gear, and you're going, why isn't this working? This feels weird. And the car says, stop doing this. This isn't right.
This is not how I work.
Yeah. So I mean, relationships of any sort, but definitely within community, it builds by degrees.
Claire, sorry, you go.
Oh, well, no, I was thinking that we were gonna talk about what Claire is talking here.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, Claire saying, in my experience, honesty does build community. People feel included with your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and this is the thing, like, especially if people have been with you for a long time, like what you just said, you've had time to build that relationship. It's not an instant thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's definitely, there are definitely points of overshare in the world. Sorry, I'm picturing like those people with their thumbnails with their cry face, and that you're just like, oh, I can't watch them. They make me cringe too much. We've got Russell from Florida Living Management. He's asked a few questions in here.
Sure.
They're a little, so it's more about just general questions. How long have you had your YouTube channel up for?
Mm-hmm. Sure. And I also see he followed up and said, how often do I look at the analytics? Yeah. I will say, for myself, I started my YouTube journey has like I say, it's been a winding one. And I started in 2017. So it's been up for 5 years now. It's been up for 5 years now. And there were times when I was focusing on releasing content that was short form, highly produced stuff that would work for YouTube and, with the kind of content that YouTube wants. And that's when the channel started to grow. And there came a point where I said, this is not something that I can sustain. And I wanted to focus more on building business and building the things behind the scenes that people don't actually see. And so I stepped away from creating content, from releasing content on YouTube and for quite a while. And it's only been recently since this, this year, since I've started releasing content publicly, regularly again.
Yeah.
But even so, it's in a different format than what I used to do. So it's still experimenting. And I will say, I will take this, I'll take this opportunity to encourage people. There is a mentality out there that says, if you don't have an enormous following, that you're not worthy of sharing what you're sharing. And I'm here to say that that is a lie. There are people out there who need to hear what you have to say. There are people out there who will only respond to the things that you say the way that you say them. And so some of the tightest connections that people end up making can sometimes end up with people who have a small and loyal community. And so I just want to offer that as an encouragement to you, because if you think about it on the flip side, it is really easy to get caught up in the idea of, if I don't have large numbers, then I'm falling short.
Yeah.
If the fact of the matter is, if you have a message that you want to spread to the world, if you want to build a community, it's a lot harder to do that when you have a lot of people. When you have a lot of people doing that. If you have 1 million subscribers or 1 million followers, how do you think, it's possible to still build a community like that, but it looks very different than what it does if you're starting out and if you have a smaller channel. So that is what I always want to make sure that creators today know. It's one thing to say, well, people aren't hanging around, people aren't watching because I don't have an identity of, I haven't really nailed down who, if someone hasn't really nailed down who they are or what content they're making or why they're putting their content out into the world, that has to happen no matter what. But if you are getting engagement in your content, if you are seeing people hanging around and returning, that's a good sign. And that's a really good sign.
That's awesome. You get, it's like so much cheering happening in the chat right now. Because it is very easy to get caught up in the numbers, and it's very easy to put and it obviously will depend on your individual personality, but some people do put their self-worth into their numbers, and they base how much effort they're willing to put in on the numbers that they have right that second. And I do think that you're kind of shooting yourself in your own foot when you do that.
I agree.
I wouldn't be brave enough to invite the guests that I have coming in based on the numbers on this channel. You can't make decisions based off an arbitrary number. So
yeah. I mean, looking at the people that you've had on your channel, I mean, good grief. I mean, you were hanging out with Justin Brown. I mean, he does have over 1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. But you know what?
He does.
You guys have commonality.
We do.
You have these shared beliefs. You have these, you both are educators. You both want to help people amplify what they're saying, amplify their message, and get their message out to the world. Of course, he wants to help you with that.
Yeah. He's also a good guy. So
he's also a super cool guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Some of these guys that are in the chat here now are members of Justin's Primal Video Accelerator program as well.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
It's
am
a
I.
good bunch. As are you. That's right. And as am I.
Very cool.
It's like a little PVA fan club.
There you go.
There we go. Jeff, you've written a book on editing. Like that was, does that feel like a lifetime ago now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was 2014. And there's a quote by the British philosopher Alain de Botton who says, if you're not embarrassed by who you were last year, then you're probably not learning enough. Let me just say, let me just say, I look back at the book and there are parts where I cringe. Oh,
I do that with my videos, but I leave them there. I don't take them down. Yes.
And that's one of those things where we get to choose how we react to our on-camera presence, the way we've learned, the way we've grown, the things that we put out into the world. We choose the meaning that we attach to those. And we say, okay, this is where I am now with my execution level, and this is where I was then. So do I look here and say, oh, I suck for having put stuff out down here? Or do I look at myself and say, hey, this is amazing. Look how far I've grown.
Absolutely.
I definitely prefer the latter.
I love that. I love the latter too, not the former. When it comes to, like, you say that the live video has been helping to build the confidence. Do you find that doing more live video helped you to build your confidence on a physical stage? I've noticed that you've been able to speak at conferences and things now that the conferences are starting back up. Did you find that helped with that, or did you already have, public speaking down pat?
Well, number one, I'm not going to say that I have public speaking down pat, because I still have a lot. I still have a lot to learn compared to where I would like to be. I will say that live streaming has really been helpful, just in on-camera presence and presentation confidence, just in general, whether it's talking to a camera or whether it's standing on a stage. It's either way, you do have to put in the reps, but it all works together. And the interesting thing is, you look back, going back to that idea of the things that we did years ago and how it all fits together.
Yeah.
The idea of doing radio, it's going live. A lot of what you hear on the radio is happening live, even now. And when I was in college and I was standing in front of that microphone, and the first time I hit the red button to turn on the mic, and that red flasher started spinning in the corner, like it looked like a fire engine was parked outside. That's just how it works.
That's not stressful at all.
Well, it's just nose on your face obvious. Everyone, we're hot, we're live. Your voice is going out through a large part of the Midwestern United States right now, 100,000 watt FM radio station. And having that experience and getting used to that is that was my first time. Those are my first times really getting into that vibe of being live, and you just got to keep going, and you got to talk, and you got to know where you're going, and you got to know what's happening next.
No dead air on the radio.
Boom, hit the next cue, and okay, now I can relax.
So, okay, next.
Yeah, but it all builds on itself. It all builds in on itself, and you can't expect to be confident. You can't expect to be smooth or fluid if you haven't put in the reps. And you can't put in the reps without sucking at first. It's just the way it works.
Just how it is. Like the number of comments and emails that I get about people that I'm afraid to do it because I'm going to suck. I don't want to deal with the trolls. It's all these things that you can control to a degree, but you can't 100% control. And the only way to learn to deal with the trolls is to deal with the trolls. You build better moderation tools. You stop them from being able to comment. You get mods in so that they can deal with it, so you don't have to think about it. And it's the same with going live as well. You just got to press the button and do it. Club it and stuff it up, but be honest, like, dudes, this is the first time. Sorry if everything crashed and burned. Sorry that my dog cannot stop barking. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't get onto the mute button fast enough. So I'm very sorry if your ears are being blown out every now and again. He's adorable.
Well, it's not so much about my ears being blown out. It's about these darn earbuds. They just keep falling out. I have a new set of in-ear monitors. They should be, if they're not sitting in the mailbox as of right now, they will be within the next day or so. I was hoping to get them in by today, but alas.
Oh, alas. I've got my so and you know what? Like, there's multiple schools of thought when it comes to the technology that we use for live streaming. And oh, here he goes again. Off he goes. He's very angry. He's like going, he's a tiny dog. Is that unbearably loud?
No. Keep doing your thing.
Okay. So basically you've got the people that are like, you've got to have the right camera, you've got to have the right mic, you've got to have all this, amazing stuff. For me, I think you need to have a decent internet connection. Some sort of camera. It doesn't matter if it's a phone, whatever. I personally prefer what I've got because I've slowly changed things over the years. Nothing happens quickly here. What are your feelings on quality versus content?
Well, I would say quality versus content is not mutually exclusive. You can have content at any level that is amazing, that is riveting, or that is as boring as watching paint dry. And you can have the same thing, and you can have that on any continuum of gear. Yeah. So it's these two things, the two continuum. What's the plural of continuum? Continui, continuums?
No, it's discontinuum. It's one of those words.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you have two. Wow. See, yeah. I would trust you on that.
Oh, double check it. I'm gonna write it down and double check it.
Being the lifelong bookworm, I trust you on that. You have these two continuum sitting on top of each other, and it's about finding the right balance.
Oh,
for instance, go ahead.
I'm incorrect. Oh. Google. Continua.
Almighty Google. Continua.
Yep. Continua is
I would not have guessed that.
Me neither.
One continuum, more than one continua. Because I know everyone on the stream was dying. Yeah,
sorry, everyone needed to know that. I had to find it. That's the thing. Like, I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Good. I need to check. Sorry.
Well, so I will say one of the things, just in my head, starting, as I said, I stepped away from doing doing public content releasing on YouTube for a while. And it came back because I realized that I wanted to step into more of an identity of being a thought leader, being a content coach. And so I said, I want to show up as someone worthy of paying attention to. So that's when I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this with a DSLR camera. I decided for myself. Now, granted, I'd already been doing YouTube and I'd been doing a bunch of shooting, and I had a bunch of videos up on my channel already. So I knew how to run my DSLR, but the one that I had did not have a clean HDMI output. So I upgraded my camera body because, this one right here that I'm talking into is a Canon 90D. And I got it specifically because it's in the Canon world, because that's where my lenses are. And it has a clean HDMI output. And then for this, I know that there are lots of microphones and all this kind of stuff that you can get that are really inexpensive. I decided that I wanted to, number one, I was going to be starting out a podcast, and then I wanted to add video to it. So I wanted to, number one, sound good. So I spent more money for a great microphone. I bought a Rodecaster Pro that has all the onboard audio processing, and it really helps. It makes things really sound nice and crisp and crunchy. And so that,
And the advantage for you is that you already know, you knew how to use these things. They were not a barrier. Like you didn't get these high quality camera, high quality gear, and then get them and go, well, I can't use them. I've got to stop and not create for 6 months while I learn how to use them. You had some skills, and this was an upgrade for you rather than a jump in.
Exactly. And it was the biggest thing that changed was I had made a decision that I was going to do it. And I would have ended up doing it even if I would have just started tracking with the webcam on my laptop, on the built-in camera on my laptop, and talking into a set of earbuds that I plug into my laptop.
Yeah.
I would have done it either way because I had made the decision that I was going to do it, regardless of what gear that I had. But because I made that decision, and because I said I want to show up as someone who is worthy of paying attention to, I want to look good and I want to sound good. And so that was what drove me to make those choices with my gear.
Yeah. I like how you made the decision yourself. You weren't swayed. You didn't look at YouTube going, well, everyone else has got SM7Bs. I should have an SM7B.
Right.
You decided, I need a good microphone to get this audio. Which microphone do I need to go and get?
Well, and I also, it was also, there were a lot of options available. And I knew, one of the deciding factors, I haven't ever actually told anyone this, but I knew that one of my friends who is one of the top performing artists, musicians, songwriters on artlist.io, she sings into one of these things. She does all her tracks into one of these things. And on top of that, I also saw that Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast literally on the face of the planet, he talks into one of these things. So I thought, you know what, let's just narrow down the options and just go with that, because people that I respect.
That's the thing. People you respect, and you respect their content.
Right.
So that's cool. We've got some questions if we've got time for them, if that's
absolutely
okay.
I've got more time, so I'm flexible.
Awesome.
So however
fantastic
long we go.
How we track. I'm just going to scroll back just a little, just to make, because I did miss one earlier, and I just wanted to grab that one. So it was from NYC Prince, who is Mark. I've got to find it. He asked, there it is. Storyboarding. Do you do anything with storyboarding for your content?
I do no storyboarding whatsoever.
Neither do I, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've got no tricks.
Well, because I would say, Mark, I would be curious to know if there's anything what's the context that you're thinking of that for? Because if you are doing highly produced pieces that require elements to fit together, if you're using visual effects, or if you have a team that need to know exactly how things are going to work, and you're using expensive locations or gear or equipment and all that stuff, and it all has to come together quickly when you shoot, that's the kind of a scenario when you would want to do a storyboard and you want to plan out shots in advance. But a lot of the time, the stakes are just not that high. Thankfully, thankfully for the bulk of the creators getting their feet in going, it doesn't have to be that high. And I see that he says to help with editing. Yeah, I do not ever use storyboarding for editing. There are scenarios, usually within the scripted world, where they end up having scenes, and they have a visual library up on their wall. A lot of people, a lot of film editors do that. So when it comes to editing is putting together what has already been planned and shot. And if you're trying to do the planning in the edit, that's when things start getting a little funky. So
that's when you come up across the shoot less but enough.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll jump to our next question. It's actually from Mark again, the next question. How do you look into the camera at the viewer and create presence? And regarding voice things to do or not to do, including what to drink and what not to drink. She says she gets her very milky coffee.
Well, I will tell you, with the voiceover thing, it's not a good idea to have multiple drinks of alcohol the night before a recording session. Ask me how I know this. You end up with your voice sounding like gravel. I'm walking in sounding like this, and they're going, "Dude, what happened to your voice?" I had a few drinks. It was a night. It was a night out with friends. And that's the night
before. Even that's not even in like prep time. That was your night before. So. Yeah.
I mean, and I will say it never was a huge thing in terms of, depending on, if you're doing a live stream like what we're doing here, it's not gonna, it's lower stakes in terms of what should I drink or not drink. Or, and if you need water to keep your throat from getting dry, awesome. Keep your water. Keep your water nearby. It's I don't really focus on that very much. You do need to be careful if you're on a mic that picks up everything that you do, then you start picking up lip smacks and noises and clicking with your teeth, and it's like this sonic extreme close up, and it's actually kind of gross.
And it's like, are you making an ASMR channel?
Right, exactly. So unless you're intending to go ASMR on all this stuff, it's probably a good idea to not eat things that will get a lot of saliva in your mouth. One of the tricks that people use for voiceover is to eat a sour apple before things, because the sourness dries up some of the, it slows down your saliva production.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, that can be helpful. The other question in terms of how do you look into the camera at the viewer and create presence? I imagine, number one, I'm talking to one person. I'm talking to you right now. And I like you. You are my best friend. You are my buddy that I'm hanging out with. And so that's what's in my head when I'm looking at this piece of glass and plastic that is the camera. You have to imagine that you're talking to one person and you're talking to your best friend, and you are stoked that you get to hang out with them.
That's awesome. My one tip I would add to that, especially if you're just starting and you're not used to looking at the lens, I do keep looking down because I've got my screen with Jeff's face on it just below.
You got a control room here. You got a stream to run.
I got screens everywhere. But when I'm recording to camera, especially when I was first starting, I was given this tip, which was actually just to get a little Post-it note and draw a little smiley face on it and put it near the camera. So I remembered to look at the camera and not look at the viewfinder, because some of them are off to the side. And when you're looking off to the side and you're this close, everyone can tell. And they know you're not looking at the camera. But if you actually make the conscious effort to look at the camera by sticking a little smiley or a couple of little down arrows or just something, then you can create that again, because eye contact. And this is the thing, we're in YouTube land here. We are in people's homes, in their bedrooms, on their bus trip with them.
Right.
So you need to be talking to one person, and that's less easy when you're live streaming in this context with like where I've got Jeff here with me, because I'm trying to talk to Jeff and you. And it's like having a conversation with two people. So I'm trying to keep eye contact with both, except technically looking in the one place does. But as the person doing it, you feel like you need to look down at the other person to be maintaining eye contact, except you're not unless you're looking at the camera.
Well, and give yourself some grace here. I would, especially when it comes to eye contact.
Yes.
And earbuds that suck.
Oh, I keep like poking my back.
Well, especially when it comes to eye contact. I mean, just think how you talk in real life. I mean, it's not, if you just keep staring, yeah, it's creepy. You just give some people the break and just look down every once in a while.
Look away for a second.
It is totally fine to look away.
Yeah. That's awesome. So Russell asks, do you use scripts, bullet points, or just wing it when recording a video?
Winging it is asking to spend ridiculously more time than you ever wanted to. That's asking for way more time invested in the editing process. If you really want it to come together in a cohesive and polished way. So there are there's another continuum with this one.
So the word of the day.
The password is continuum. So we have a continuum of people who say, I want to know exactly every single word that I'm going to say. And they type out every single word that they say, and they end up sounding like a robot because they're reading word by word. Then you have people who say, I'm going to only write down some bullet points, and once you start rolling, you say, oh, I wanted to say this and wanted to say that. Okay, let me back up and get this, and next thing you know, it's just as if they were winging it. Yeah. I would not recommend anyone ever just wing it. Don't ever turn on the camera. Don't ever hit go live unless you have some kind of idea of where you're starting and where you want to go. Which is also the foundation of any story. Starting here, we end up here.
That's right. It's the foundation of a good story.
Yes, plenty of stories that are not compelling, don't hold people's attention. All that.
And we don't want that. We don't want that for us. We don't want that for you.
Agreed.
It's just how it is. It is.
Agreed.
Claire's saying here that she can't stand it when people talk to the viewfinder. Yeah. Like I will honestly say it's one of my pet peeves, but it's also human nature. So trying to get your vanity screen somewhere where it's a little more or a little less obvious when you're not looking at it, because human nature is to check where you are in the camera, check where it is. Also, that's the face. It's the only face that you can see around while you're talking. So your eyes want to try and connect with another set of eyes.
And I will say, if there is, this might be helpful for some people. If you really have difficulty, if you really want to see your face, your confidence monitor, sometimes people can get a teleprompter, a basic teleprompter setup, and do a feed from your camera and split your output of your camera feed and do a feed into your teleprompter. So you're literally talking right here to yourself. And so you can always know, that your feed is live or what your feed is looking like, and you don't ever have to look away. But
that's awesome. That's an excellent tip.
But you do also want to look away every once in a while, because not looking away is just creepy.
Let's not creep our viewers out. That's it, everybody. Takeaway point: don't creep out your viewers.
Yeah. and the plural of continuum is continua.
Continua.
Who knew?
The things we've learned. Jeff, I've had such a fantastic time chatting with you today, and I kind of don't want it to end, but at the same time, everything must come to an end.
This is true. And I haven't had dinner yet, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, your stomach's eating through your spine while you're talking to us.
Stomach says, give me food now.
It is the feeding time. Yeah. Jeff, I've got your storygreenlight.com on the screen here where people can come and they can find your podcast. What else can they find on that website?
You can download you can download a free guide for how to ask questions to craft your story content, so it fits together the way it should be. There's a free guide that you can download there. There is also, as of right now, there is a link to a free training that'll help you create a greater emotional connection between you and your viewer. You can actually get that on, as of now, at the upper right-hand corner on the YouTube channel itself. And otherwise, we throw out, we put out creative coaching and updates and all sorts of cool things via email every week. And so there's a place on storygreenlight.com that you can join the email list and become a Story Greenlight insider that way too.
That is awesome. Also, in the description of this YouTube video, I've popped in, again, the Story Greenlight website that's clickable, so it's easier for you. And also, what else did I add in there? There was something else. Website and Facebook page? I can't remember now.
Oh, I think you mentioned Instagram. If you want to hit, if you want to hit up on Instagram, it's at Story Greenlight, and you can drop a DM there. And
also Jeff's YouTube channel. So
Absolutely.
You can actually, that's my brain was like YouTube, Chantelle, YouTube. Such a professional. Jeff, it has been awesome. And thank you so much for coming. And thank you to everybody who has been here for the live and for those of you that have got this far in the replay. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Yeah.